But chair's noisy. I thought I had those little cushions under there.
Are we good to go there, Victoria? Okay. So everybody, welcome to another night of language class with Ron and friends. Quick summary of the day. It was a beautiful day. Cool, but lovely out. It was a lovely sunset. As we were making dinner, watching the sun go down, it was beautiful. I hope people got out and enjoyed the day because tomorrow it sounds like some more interesting weather's on our way. So anyway, I will hand it over to, let me see if I can see everybody. There we go. You're big people now. So there's Ron and Loy and Janet and Dave and Marie and Trish hiding in the background. Welcome everybody, and I'll hand it over to you, Ron.
Bonjour. Begin Pimina Chibako, the Mexican Pendayam, Wasab, Scott Maisy. No, Pimina, we've been Anishinaabemowin. Manda, Wasab, and Bina, we much stop.
These bok doeken niet na je chance. Niet zo sagons, niet na Chinese. En zoals zo de Bagida'waad, maak me good. 8 o'clock start. Did I do good?
You did.
Hey, you good?
Welcome.
Welcome.
Just going on with the idea of the topics here. The greetings, how we say things. Sometimes we can offend others and not be aware. It's not the intent to make one uncomfortable, or it's a learning process. And for the new learner, it is something to be aware of. I was thinking to myself, when is it okay? Burning on the inside. Okay. And hopefully with our discussions, we'll be learning from each other a little bit more. So we use, for examples, the short little phrases listed below. So, so beautiful. Winga, shani, wet. Smatomni.
Ni aware Anishinaabemowin. Ken dan go snack to what? Gnan walk. Kain ni dan chuasik. When ni chutap the what you want, chicken and what now you system what Anishinaabemowin. Na pitching go on it, chu talk. Monsieur, this is nagakyo. You be getting them what? Snagak. When a shoe go no Anishinaabemowin. We are so a quite now, the Northern Akina, using a quasi. The was met all when the show since Stagoin. People since Stagoin, you can open the dog, give me a cup of pork. They'll give you a smile. Mom, Pinotiak, you're economic. Be near. Kim tak schon mir nie, ich habe wie want the money thing young. It's an more here, consistent you. While we're going around with the smudge, how's the people out there tonight?
Niminawaya.
Jesus,
Jesus, Gizalgeasagate Oman or Gishagad. Benojiagi Babadaminoa Agwajing. Yeah. Gimin Wayne Daniel. Gin Wayne B Nation in Gi Jung Gwang Giz the Saga Sigade.
Bonjour, Annie. Many do benashik by additional cost. Wengan do dem. Zaginang in Don Jaba. No, Pama, this Hindash.
Bamadis Gogani.
Nishinwa. Nishanguki. Kingunagut. Being in much.
Pichin Jigiga the Young. Nunchnikea Gi Ken Moaman. Gaja Kendamang. Gego Wicked Young. Nunchnikea. Gishpan Bujoda Geginwa Ebayayek. Gi Kramagoyek. A different way. So we were having this discussion before we came on just about different pronunciations. So it's not that any of them are wrong. There's just, we talked about how we heard them and what we learned as we were growing up from the language speakers in our families. So, Tam Kweshkodad Yek Kuja. Gakwedwe Ani Nikazian. So that is hello, what is your name? So that's a common way that I heard Ani Nikazian. So if I were to ask, even at this table, I'm going to ask a few people that phrase and we'll hear the responses because you'll probably hear different responses. So I'm going to ask Janet first. Ani, Ishnakazia. Janet, Ishnakos. Ani, Ishnakazian.
Ram, Jinakan.
Ani, Ishnakazian.
David.
David.
Doesn't go.
David Ishnakon.
There's no cause.
Yeah. Ishnakazian.
Oh, Marie, get in Tishnakas.
Ani Ishnakazian.
Just said Tishnakas.
So you heard the different ways. The way I grew up understanding that was Lori Djinkas. So there's 1, 2, 3 different ways, that we understand how we've come to know what those words are. But they all mean the same thing. Basically, they basically mean the same thing. So if I were to go to Janet, and I don't know Janet's name, so, and then we'll go down here. Okay, can you say that? Okay, so I'll come to you first. Ani, Ejnikazian.
We're starting over here.
Yeah.
Okay. It's Janet and Dishnakas.
Then you would go to the next person.
Kindish, Anish Ishnakazian.
Dave, there's no cause. Abi this is in Jabai.
Oh, sabi ng pinhin, din siya ba?
So you Kwedwena or Trish Kwedjan. Kindash.
Kindish.
Abi said in Jabai.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I should have brought my glasses. Kindish. Abi Shirin Jabai.
Nakin.
That's next one.
Oh,
Japan. Yeah.
Anishan Japan.
I've been Japan.
Oh my.
Now, where'd you come? Where are you from?
Oh. Saging Dunjuba.
Mhm. So then you can ask Ron,
Kinder.
Abish,
Abish.
and Janaki.
Ejinaki.
Oh, Saging now.
Mm. And then we could carry that on.
Mm-hmm.
Winesh and Janakian. Anish, Winesh, Jichkayan.
Oh, we woman the Jitlanen. The Kanomage skin shook the Genomwalk or should we go for what? When it's system what you the king. The not how you would happen what the type of machinery they need to use, type of saws, RSOs on the windows, doors, and on centers for the trusses, even the studs.
Mhm. So having gone around the table, we went from asking what your name was to asking where do you come from to where do you work? What do you do for work? And then a question that wasn't on here, I went back to Ron when he replied, I work building houses. So then I asked him a deeper question. What is it that you do for that? So he went in and explained further. So those are general types of greetings. And you may hear some of those when we're in circle, because we have those bonjour, Lauren Dijnakas, Dijinkas, Nigik Dodem, Sagin Donjaba. And so that's a general greeting. And again, you could hear them possibly just with a little bit of a different pitch to it, or
Now, question. Sometimes you also hear them ask you, what family are you from? And I'm just wondering how that would be said in Ojibwe.
Your daughter, your clan.
or your family, like the
Your
root,
family, you
the
could say,
root
yeah,
family, or Winesh.
Nosman?
What's parents? How do you say parents?
Durum. Then.
But together, what did it seem like?
Oh.
No, that's it. Because some people do ask that.
Yeah.
What family are you from? And I hear that especially even in our own community with the elders, if we have some youth coming in, and they don't know who they are, so they'll ask, who is their family?
Yeah.
So then we introduce them by their parents or their grandparents.
Yeah.
So then that's how they know who they are then. Yeah.
I can't find it here. I moved that word into the family.
Okay.
Relative
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah. Or sometimes who's your mother?
Yeah, or your
Dead them. Yeah.
Because I can remember, I guess they were asking about family, and they would identify my mother, say, Ochi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's passed, like say if somebody asked who my dad was, and they knew him by his nickname, Boy, but I would say Boy Bun.
Yeah.
But I also hear it said Boy Ba.
Yeah.
I've heard it said that way, but I learned it Ba. Boy Bun is how I would say it. So there's the two different ways. So that means somebody that has passed on.
That's the boss part.
The
right?
Ba, the
Yeah.
Bun.
Or they use qua with it too.
Mhm.
They used to say, like the man saying Archie qua.
Yeah, Archie Kwe.
Archie
Yeah.
Kwe.
They used to say
Relating
that
that.
too.
Yeah.
Or chicken is small.
Welcome to worship. Crawford.
Or sometimes they use the last name, because I used to hear them talk about Emma.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Kahi qua.
Oh, yeah.
Last
Mhm.
name
Yeah.
identify.
Yeah.
That woman that lived this side of Jones there. What was her name? Ellen Kayash.
Oh, yeah.
Helen.
Mhm.
Mio was na kanzito. She couldn't say Crawford. Qualquer um skin, eh? Me got it. Qualquer um skin, little ball.
And then down this way is Cunish.
Kunish, yes. Kunish, we asked.
And they're great for nicknames all the
Oh,
time, eh?
goodness,
Everybody
yes.
have nicknames.
Yep.
Oh,
When you
good.
know you're adopted day.
Your cash countries in the country, cause
Teshknan.
Tashkina.
No, Teshknan. So they
Is that
started-
where his nickname comes from? Dash?
Yeah.
Is it?
Teshknan. He used to call,
Oh.
his mom used to call him that because I guess he didn't listen to her.
Oh.
I go, Mama, Teshknan, yeah.
Oh.
Referring to Jim
Audrey has her hand up.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to add to what Janet was saying about Archie Qua. We would be referred to as Archie's girls. They wouldn't say it in the language, but Archie's girls. And I've come to understand that it's about relating. And the language is about relationships. So identifying us as Archie's girls would make that connection in the family and in the community.
Mhm.
Miigwech.
De vuelta.
Liz Stevens also posted in the chat an option for what is your family called?
Okay.
If someone wants to, you want me to try? I may not be able to do it. Anish, Anishinaabemowin Gada Bwezimak.
Getzimak. Das ist der Getzimak.
Bwezimak.
Anish Getzimak. Okay.
Where's your parents?
Yeah. Okay.
Getsimuk, yeah. That's
Getsimuk.
what it was, yeah.
All right, Miigwech.
Miigwech. Whoa.
Mhm.
Janet, I'll get you to do number 2.
Okay, so we're spring, Manokmi.
They also say some other word. What is that?
For spring,
Ziegler.
Zequin.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Zeegler.
Zeegwin. So it is foggy, Owen. It is muddy. Joshkiwan. Joshkiwan.
Mhm.
It is windy, Norden.
Man, det är ju nog med kamantani. It is money. So strong, but not good with that word.
Mhm.
It's built right into it. And the last part of that word is that means it's hard ground, but it's slippery underneath, like frozen ground.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But, just to go into that, in the daycares, when Emily was just little, so she would have been probably 2. And that's the good part of the language being taught in the daycares.
Mhm.
So at the time, Rita Oda Gibindia, we Knomaget. So Giodopna Noshe, Emily. And Kujingijayang, it was foggy outside. So I asked her, I was going to say it in the language. I said, do you know how to say this in our language?
Mm.
I said, this fog. And I was going to get ready to say it. And she jumped right in and she said, Juan Kut Kuji.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, there's this huge benefit to our kids learning it when they're learning to talk, because it just comes naturally then, it's not having to be a second thought. So I was quite proud of her when she beat me to it, and it came out of her mouth faster than it came out of mine.
And that's from the daycare.
That was from the
In the
daycare.
community.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was 10 years ago.
Mhm. Now, these ones here, we don't have to follow these ones. Maybe there's something, maybe somebody wants to ask out there, or we could break some of these words down as we go along.
Mhm.
Fill in the pieces.
Okay.
Hello and goodbye, Jen.
Hello, Anin or bonjour.
There's you.
And some just say leave it at without the N on the end, isn't it? Ani.
Ani. Some say Anin. Yeah.
And goodbye. Min wong go up min.
Mhm.
Somebody else?
And now, Pio, the good question. Isn't that what we say? We will meet again somewhere.
Mhm.
Mhm. No, this position might not happen. Oh,
Get Chegazap. Get Chegazap is like referring to really early in the morning. Minagani is Webzian Nungum. Get Chegazap and Doshpus. It's like 5 o'clock. Not at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, well, I'm the much way in the car. I don't know what it is. And
you will shook you in the king's yoke.
we just weed about Zianda. Then mission to then Bayan care like let me sleep for another 2 hours.
Pero nem magosi.
Ah,
Kabdek kashkisa.
yeah, so yeah, I just had it there saying Oshuing, do madap. I go sit in the living room and I'll sit there sometimes and I'll sit there for an hour or whatever. Either here when I get EOP, Shue was young, you and the can Donama. Donama Mother beyond you. It's like Miguel Minan Nangum, Scozian Mina. Thank you for allowing me to get up on another day, I would say. Kind do Kenzin was nago ke nungum, do quite west we go when it's a nabadango kinabugego. I ask that a good day happens for all of us, or even my own self, to have a good day. Migegna kego gajwe buke jinago don't get them done. There's something that happened in the workplace the day before. That's sometimes why wakes me up to have a look at that and how am I going to address that with Anigon Zajika and Mutabajikma to the ones that are sitting above me, that how are we going to have a solution to any problems that we are having. We just gonna and Jamatabian Chikashabio Nikia do we demand this Monday Nikia Gadaganawam done, maybe I need to look at it in this way, I would tell myself. Maybe even any Gonzazik, Abadeko Keen Witcould Mutabamin Mondio, Zindoaman Mabik, Wagigadajik. We're going to sit here this morning and then we're going to acknowledge of how we can come up with a resolution or like your justice system in that kind of way. How do we do that as people in our own community? How are we going to handle something? Either Kanagini is Ginawam and Nakian, they looked at as oh, you're our elder in the health center. That's what they would say sometimes to me. So I said, oh, geez, coming along, shaking the all seal. Maybe I'm just being not ready to take that role on it at the time. So, I think as a young boy or a young man in that way myself, and maybe it's just kind of being in a way of being humble in your own way of. I don't want to. It's like to have a solution to how we need to look at something. When they're gonna get a warm diamond, or when they're gonna get goes into Maba Janet walk it, get go me gonna run walk it. We just gave over, yeah, but another one game over quick. Die kwijt another one came on Pigo. Maar Bushman gi another one, kai maar gi another one see doctor. Gives in dog a bungie, but maar Bushman gives in dog maar in it. So it's looking at things in that way, and then how do we mediate that solution or that situation? So that's those are things that much web in the go on, you know, we gonna watch web okay, Mandio walk way the way out that Nabi I'm not sure how you would say that storage, that there's a big water storage that's going to go on in Meaford. So we need community input. So they brought in a ceremonial man to look at this, a holy man or a sacred man to go through the ceremony. Me just gonna get any much way to go on, you know. When there's what they would put. You went to we did what on Mava Menedo, what kid that gave that Nibi Menedo Migna or that water spirit. Are you going to listen to the water spirit to whereas Mandajonia on the Jiganamot Mandano Gumin? I'm going to give you guys both reserved on this amount of money. When there's one the wishman Kayam Jonia, Migana, when it kwam the mong Monday Nabi. So that those are things Chigashep much way in the go. That's where it wakes me up early in the morning and to have that solution. And Gimayak have been asking me when I share when I should what do you think they say? Or what's your thoughts or whatever that is around there? Oh, I just say you might not like what I've got to say, but my thought is just like what I shared: is you going to listen to the spirit, or you're going to listen to the Jonia spirit? Because those are two things that are going on. But that's part of that itself. And one of the Chikishap in just on, and then this other one is Gijaba. Yeah, and that's still again what you're saying. What Neil, what can you?
Book.
Oh yeah. Migo Gayo, Mina, don't get on down your beyond book. And then when I see that beyond book Monday Unika, Kaige Bobby O.C. Mao. And he's not going to wait for our decision either. So we got to act on what we got to do. Maybe I'm the game when it comes, and I'm going to give you all day to think about this. And sometimes we don't realize how fast that sun is moving. Sometimes it looks like it may not look like it's moving, but it's moving. And you only see that at sunrise or at sunset. So it's that's that time again. Me wakes you up early. But me what's going on and then Bibsian Menam oh Jesus. And I look at it in a spiritual way in itself. It's like when it's getting higher, me can game tone that spiritual road from east to west. We gave up old queer, must set game off. We just came over gay Mishomas Pinton Gayo, me can make sure that road is clear for that choir to walk and make sure it's safe for her. Is one of those gamins going on for Kinomage when that those teachings that it was given to me in that way or shared with me. It wasn't really given to me, it was just shared with me in that way, and I understood that. And so sometimes I keep that in my prayer and also. It is morning. It's like Mosquito magazine. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Maybe what's going to go when you said we were going to ask that man the question, going to wait for that answer. I was going to give the question. It's already daylight.
Yeah.
Well, that's what that means.
Mhm.
The next one is that up to dinner time, you got that time to make that, there's any kind of decisions you want to do.
Mhm. Hoggy togi.
It is morning,
It is morning, in the morning.
all morning.
All morning. See it, I didn't bring my glasses.
Oh, okay, it's, Gdezheva. I think it's all morning. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Bill has his hand up.
Yeah.
Do you mind if he asks?
I
Go ahead,
wanted
Bill.
Oh, yep. Thank you. One thing that we haven't discussed is the difference between animate and inanimate. And so, for example, I have here, if we want to say this woman, we would say maba kwe. And but if it was something inanimate, like a stone, we would say monda.
Mhm.
And the stone is a sea. Is that stone? A sea? I think something like that.
But just in that instance, the stone is living.
Yeah.
Because we look at what has spirit. So the inanimate and the animate might be different from what would be interpreted from the English language.
Yes, but you would
As an
agree.
ex-
But you would agree that certain things are deemed to be animate and certain things are deemed to be inanimate
Yes.
within in your language,
Mhm.
Anishinaabe. And then another interesting thing is that you can turn a statement into a question by just adding "na" to it. So that's something. And then we have you say "I will" is nue, nue. So that's made up of I is N, N-I-I-N. And with says, I'm going to do something in the future, nue. And then I did would be ngi, ngi, and I am doing ndu. So that, okay.
Nina, mandagina, gini, kinomagi, man, Anishinaabemowin. Kendan gura, kapita, yasio ko den Anishinaabemowin. Abdexio, Bagida'waad, Avishman picking too much tire. Monsieur, Dabito sin montes, Nakananguk animate. Or the other one that you say. Gayund Abdito sin non. Abdeco Kendan, yo montani, Sinish, Eanguk. Is Yanguk the king. Pues a war Sinis. Monsieur, je can munio, it has a spirit. Ma buge o qua, Shnakanat. Kendan, go out with o qua. Kamatsuin Mabememo. Me and the king is a can Marian, you the king, when it's a can man, not to go in Abdigan. You can zone Mayo. You go watch your own shna. You go watch obligation. Me go kakanendang. Me gonna get chew. Me gonna go. This is why I teach the language the way I do, right from the way that we were given that from the spirits, that language. When I was with my Mishrooms, you got it. Speak your language. This is what was given to you. Don't ever lose that language and know every part of that word, the things that are there. Never mind about the animate or the what's that other one? Inanimate. Never mind about those. Everyone is a bang you in the head. That's all. People get turned off by that. Sure, the king. This is why I do the way the things I do it. I don't mean to hurt anybody by it.
Yeah.
But this, what, how I learned it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was just a little confused, Bill, on the words that you had for I will. And what was the second one?
I did, like past tense. Like if you did something right now, you would say, Neen do. I right now. Neen do, except it's shortened down to Ndu. It's just the same way you say Ndijnakas, you're really saying my name. If you just say name, it's Dijnakas, but Ndijnakas means my name. And Goodijnakas means your name. And just plain Dijnakas means his name or her name.
Ejnikos would be, what is your name? Yeah, so I will, again, would be dependent on what the sentence was that you were talking about.
Yeah, sure.
If somebody was saying,
Wanda needs to get or something.
yeah, Bishnaden.
Mhm.
So I'm asking, can you go get some water? And Dave will say, aha,
How?
I will get it. Ganaden go. Ganana bish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, I was just a little confused as to what that was that you had identified there. Anyway.
Okay. No problem.
All right. It's good for discussion.
yeah,
Yep.
that's a good one. How is Kinok's
Oh. What did you do after Dave? Morning.
All morning, it is an afternoon, or it's afternoon.
Oh.
It is afternoon.
Nokwa.
No,
Okay.
Afternoon.
or you can say no twin gut.
Nokwa, yeah.
Yeah, no twin gut.
Squaw Queen looking.
Shkonokwa is after lunch, afternoon. After lunch. Gabe.
Yeah.
I've never heard gabe.
Huh?
I've not heard gabe.
No?
Gabe. How do you pronounce that? Gabe? All day? Yeah.
Come here.
Beggish. I would have heard beggish gut.
Yeah, Baggy's got is what I.
Not the ga, the
No.
ga, the GA. It would have been beggish gut. But again, maybe there was a silent. Like the Ndijnakas, as Bill had identified, the N, when we say it fast, it's a silent N.
Yeah.
But again, the way you look at how your tongue moves in your mouth, because that's how it was identified to me by one of our language teachers. It's how the tongue moves in your mouth. So I thought, okay, okay, that was, see there, I could get it. Okay, now that sounds familiar.
It's hard,
Yeah.
it's harder without the teeth.
It's no teeth. You got no teeth, and you
You get a lot.
I just had to find that pronunciation. I
Yeah.
couldn't get it when I was trying to read it. Gabe,
B.
gabe.
Baggy's got them.
Again, but that's I have a hard time sometimes trying to
Read.
read the language.
That's what it is, yeah.
I have to keep saying it over and over and over again until the file opens up back here and.
I get you.
Yeah, you do say it fast, eh?
Yeah. Okay, so we were at Bagida'waad. Okay, all day.
So now we're at
All evening.
all evening.
Ben, I would say Nokshik.
Yeah, the Nokshik.
Nokshik. Yeah. So Ben Nokshik would be all evening.
Yeah.
So on here, it says Nagosh.
See that,
Gabe Nagosh.
sometimes I wonder if we're speaking Odawa.
Yeah. It's probably mixed in
The
there.
different, yeah, in Bagida'waad,
Yeah.
you know, because
That's all.
there's a different dialect there.
Yeah, so
because-
that's where some of these words are.
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah. And even our own, like,
Yeah.
because we've grown up with that, the three fires within
Yeah.
within the community, right? We have started to use those different ways of saying.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey has her hand up.
Yeah,
Audrey has a question?
Yes.
no,
Oh. hold himself.
Unmute.
I would just, maybe just to add to the good for conversation aspect of the evening, Shirley Williams, who's a language teacher, she's Odawa from Wiki, and she spoke about animate and inanimate and how, and that's nothing against like how we're doing this. It's just information about how another language speaker taught about it. And she said animate and inanimate, the reason we learn that is so that we can identify. A chair is just a piece of wood. It was a living when it was a tree. Well, when we took those pieces from the tree, then we removed it from the life of the tree. So it's just a chair until we use it, we sit in it, and then it has life. So I guess the relationship between how we're using things and why we call our items sacred items is we're using them for a specific purpose. But a chair isn't a sacred item, it's just a chair, unless it's a very sacred person sitting in it. I just wanted to add that.
And I think as we go along, the animate and inanimate, the inclusive, the exclusive, all the different grammatical terms that you get taught in school will eventually come. But right now, the majority of people aren't really interested in inanimate or animate. They want to hear the language. And the way you hear it is the way you've been taught. And that's what people generally will pick up on. So right now we distinguish, even when we're looking at this, there are differences and sometimes we can't pronounce or we don't relate to the word that's being said. There's a root there somewhere, but we just haven't studied that particular root.
Every time, when you don't use these words that much, you begin to lose them. And you begin to lose the pronunciation. And the people, they get taught in schools these days, in the universities, colleges, about the language. And every time you put a word up in that blackboard, and the way you want to put it, the way you hear it, is what you're going to put up there. And maybe the spelling is wrong. And all of a sudden, you change the meaning of that word. You change every sound of it. That's what's happening here on these papers. What I was told about learn the things around you before you pick the things up. And when you pick the things up, learn about the things that you picked up. That's what I was getting at after when we were talking about the discussion, like what Audrey had said. I don't use that animate or that other one. That comes later. The reason why I do that is I want you to specifically know what that apple's all about. What's in that apple? I want to know what's in that cup of coffee. What's in there? So when we start identifying these things, like Bagida'waad, that's a black coffee. Now we add cheeseball to it, sugar, then we add milk to it. So it changes as you go along. Just like what you're learning, it grows as you go along. You grow with it. And when you completely understand them words, then you grow tall, straight, and strong. You don't look down at the ground anymore. You look ahead to where you're going to go.
And another thing too, when you're learning the language, there's always this, when you go to pronounce something, and if you say something wrong or you say a bad word or you talk dirty accidentally, and then people will laugh. And that kind of turns a person off. Yeah. And their self-esteem can be taken away real easy. So what we want to do is make people feel good about learning the language and just grow.
Grow with it.
Yeah, yeah. So
and
I think our language is so precious that we got to do what we can to protect that, to keep it alive, to make it grow. Yeah.
It's like when we were talking about the trees, the birds, all these things. the tree, when you watch it at this time of the year, when you go to Squandango to Gijin, it's turning red up there. That means it's going to give sap. That's that sap water that we're going to drink. And then after that, you'll see them little buds come, little black things. They go up. You show around about April, maybe May, bit socking on the king. It's time to go fasting, bit socks. Can we go on Skongwood?
Wabagizok.
So this is
Is
how
when you
that
go on.
language should
I'll be
go.
back.
You see that bud, well, you see the limb, you see the bud, then you see the leaf, and then how everything is put together. You say it was when it's a painted language, they say. We see things in that fashion. We don't see it in black and white like some other people do. Like I have a hard time looking at Skinagini. Ishinayo, you're gonna go on Banya. You're going to pick a Bagida'waad, make it on Gukya. Anishinaabemowin, system, you're Anishinaabemowin. Is one is on Guk, King, Nigan King, was not a mud zine. When the system of Manda Dodom is Nikadengo. Our responsibilities into our communities. Oh, obviously, no shine.
Moon? Oh, yes, because we had
Moon?
discussion all
Okay,
evening. Yeah.
moon is the big,
Jesus.
The big Jesus.
the big pieces.
No.
Okay, the big is night.
The big.
Oh, the big cut. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
didn't see
big
that.
cut, yeah.
The big cut, yeah, early in the night.
So just that word that what Bill was talking about earlier, you see it there again, DIBIK.
Right.
See how it changes?
Yeah.
Nippig Jesus, yeah, that's how I would say. The big cut Jesus
Got the
now.
glasses.
Mhm.
Okay, the big,
Abhishayak, early in the night.
yeah, yeah,
Get the big cut.
get the big cut. Get the big cut.
Dark at night.
Dark at night.
Gosh.
Big,
The big cut.
the big.
cut.
oh, the
Now,
big
I had
cut.
I have a different way of saying that.
Midnight?
No, dark at night.
Dark at night.
I'm just trying to remember.
Here's a big cut.
No,
Iwalabik.
That's
No.
midnight.
it'll come. Keep going. It'll come. I'll think of it.
All night.
All night.
Yeah.
Bedbik.
The big.
Midnight.
Midnight is
They just said that.
Up top the big cut.
big cut.
Up top the big cut.
Half a
I
night,
do that.
half a day.
The buck, buck, buck.
We say no,
I
Yeah.
forget
and
what
then
word.
up to the big cut.
Yeah.
Last night is
That's one
The big
day.
gong.
the big one.
The big gong.
The
Yeah.
big gong. Good. Oh,
Yeah,
Good.
good is
No.
No. See, I gotta jump in there.
Yeah.
To me, that I in there confuses things
Mhm.
because people have become accustomed to saying minna.
yeah.
Now myself, I didn't grow up with minna. I grew up with na.
Mhm.
Mnagizgat. Not minogizgat. It was mnagizgat. So that's just how I have, but they have that at the health center.
Mhm.
Anishinaabemowin. It's Anishinaabemowin, right? But it's the
Start living
minno.
again, is it?
Minno.
Mino, yeah.
Gigos. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. Again, different pronunciations.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
It was in the shinga.
And I guess we as children and growing up in a provincial system, we spell and say the words in like the phonics.
Mhm.
That's what we use, the sounds,
Mhm.
sound based. But even when we had a language teacher come here at one time, she was trying to teach us the sound-based system, eh? But still, it was still these kind of.
Even us up, eh?
And nasab.
Kabetagushnajika. We don't know that Anishinaabemowin, that colonizers, settlers, or whatever they want to be, however you want to identify them. We wonder, we cause a Buntonawat among the Anishinaabemowin. Kai wonder Tagi object to Simen Kishpin Kinen me going to Anishinaabemowin. Kai wonder the Zenegan Tagi test. Adru Ganage Yin Tagi Anishinaabemowin Tadaman. We want to get them on the man, webzine. We just want the NGM, Mina, Pamaji book, Mina, NGM, no, I wouldn't do that.
I wonder that.
I'll go check that.
You know, but I'm also Gajaganashi. Further to that discussion, and it's like in this day and age, we have to. We can Swatchkinijik, right?
Yeah.
In order for them to, the descendants that are coming, we have to record what we can in order for them to have it, because it's not being, the language isn't being spoken as much as it needs to be in order for them to learn, right? So, it's kind of a this or that kind of deal. Yeah.
We gonna go up Moka Sunday, my Vinoji, you wish them in all the trees and get too much with Tom of a Vinoji, Mother Bitman. He's only 3, I think it is. And then Mondekiden, and that's what I always ask him in the language, something. Mondekiden, and he will, so Rennie is sitting there. He's asking you to say something, say what he's saying, and he'll say it. And then, so I asked him on Sunday, and he's on the scam on the basic knees, and he done it all by himself. He said, "On the basic knees, man." It's like, this shin, give me the mama of a binoji. He could quit himself. I didn't say nothing more for him. He just done it.
Yeah, that's Abedek and Dayang Abedek the objectomen. Ganishnaabemowin.
Yeah.
Abedek we not Mayong. I got chinjik. Bagida'waad we know. Yeah.
You'll be the Machi for me now. Given on book from the elders, given on book. The wood to be split for them. They would come and get me after school to go there, or they would say, "Come and shovel my driveway," and I would go do that for them. And then another elder would say, "I want to teach you how to light the fire in the morning for the school children." And we do that 6 months. What's can I own a king? You can all go in the king. You should never when you can I own a king this year. You got it, you using it.
Yeah, and I think part of, and I don't know if it's missing or we have to make sure that we're including it, is the use of the beckoning or the hands. Because if we're trying to get a child to come and sit down, we'd go. When people so we'd show them. So they'd know what, okay, may not necessarily know what you're saying, but I know by your action, that's what you want me to do. Then they start associating the action with what they're doing. Yeah.
So that's how we're doing this language course here, or whatever you want to call it, the language speaking. Which if you just exactly what I'm going through, what you're telling, what you're saying.
Yeah, because when I was in high school, when they were teaching us the Ojibwe language, Mind you, the teachers that taught us were extraordinary and they did their best at the time. But we weren't grasping it because they were just giving us words
Mhm.
and we weren't learning how to communicate with one another in order to use it. And I think that's why my age struggles to understand or speak it. We can understand it, but we struggle to speak it. So man, I'm happy to sit and listen to the language here. It just good
Yeah,
on the heart.
yeah. And you can pick up words because you
Yeah.
know words. Now it's putting together with the phrases, with the
Yeah.
discussion, how it's discussed.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why the immersion part of it, when they talk about immersion, it has to be
Repetitive.
immersed, like,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
constant, because that's how we learned, right? As
Mhm.
children, that's how we learned, because everybody around us, and I think, well, for me anyway, that's how I was able to retain it, because that's all I heard. My parents, my grandparents, the people that came to visit. Anishinaabemowin. So then that was my first language. And then when I went to school, off reserve, I had already, they must have started to teach me some English at home, preparing me to go to school. So we were bilingual by the time we hit kindergarten,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But then English started to take over because that's what we spoke for the majority of the day. And then when we got home, I think our parents didn't want to confuse us. So they spoke in broken language, English and the language, Anishinaabemowin, right? So I think it was confusing all around for us as kids.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, we could still understand it. Like the older I got, I wasn't speaking it at home.
Mhm.
Whereas I probably was as a toddler before I went to school, but then English took over. And then I got embarrassed. As a teenager, I was embarrassed to speak the language, even though that's what my parents and my grandparents spoke. So I don't know where that came from,
Right.
you know?
Well, down here was Kangirage, because we spoke with our neighbors and then
Mhm.
our family, our aunt and uncle, like Bill and Rose.
They spoke the language.
They spoke it all the time and all the time over at the Johnson house.
Mhm.
Joe Cameron.
And Joe Cameron, he's another one, Alfred. And so
Mhm.
that language was always spoken even at home, and even the visitor as came, they would always. And so you were kind of fortunate enough to sit around with them around the edge to
Mhm.
hear them. And then okay. What do you? What
Mhm.
is that? They're laughing because they're all laughing. And what is that about?
Yeah. Trish mentioned it and Janet mentioned it. Some of the words that you hear, Anishinaabemowin, Sonia. And when you try and say them words, am I pronouncing it right or is it wrong? Or am I saying a dirty word? That type of thing. And then you get lost in it.
Mhm.
And don't bother the guys that are sitting around there. They'll laugh at the thing because it's like a little joke that you're telling. It seems like, but it's not. They're not. They're trying to. They'll help you along.
Mhm.
And it's nothing about demeaning about what you have said. They'll correct you, but they'll tell you off to the side. This is what you said. This is what this means, and then you know how to watch your next step. How are you going?
The other part too is English is where it separates you and you feel, well, you become alone in your own little element. So when you're speaking, there's so many descriptive words when you talk about certain events or whatnot, but you're still separated from that event. Whereas Ojibwe, you can really feel the connection. It becomes like something spiritual. And like I said, the traditional teachings I'm missing out on a lot when I hear the teachings being spoken in the language, because it's so inclusive and you want to be a part of that, but your brain is still working on that that part of, what's the word, colonialism? Or,
Right. Settler.
yeah. Because it's just been dictated to you and drilled into you that that's how society works, when our communities don't. So, yeah, it's been a rough goal. I know it's been a rough goal for my own kids because Ryan and I didn't speak the language, but we tried encouraging them to speak it.
The best you
But
could.
but it was difficult, right? We couldn't support them and give them that extra, lift to continue learning the language. But I know Bridge can really understand a lot of it because I ask her and then she goes, give me one. And then she'll say what it is, right? And it's like, holy cow, how much of the language do you know? And she goes, oh, I don't know much, right? And then she kind of blows it off. But it's like, I see myself in that same scenario when I started taking Ojibwe. And it wasn't late, like it was late in my teens when I started to take Ojibwe, because that's when the government finally acknowledged that Ojibwe should be offered in our high school systems, even in our grade schools. I was kind of in awe when I heard it was going into the grade schools, right? Because I felt that if I had learned it as a child and learned it in grade school, then I might have been more fluent in my own language. But what I was getting at was that separation. And when I took Ojibwe, and we were asked, like we had non-native kids in our class grasping it, speaking it, right? Saying the words, but they had the booklet in front of them to say it, right? Whereas we couldn't even speak it or try to pronounce the words, this long word like Jesus or something, right? Trying to grasp what it meant and trying to break that word down to be part of it. And we were asked that question, why aren't you grasping this language? It's your language, and these Saguenay kids are grasping it. So it was kind of like a skull, right? Like they were scolding us and punishing us when we were already feeling that way. But at the same time, it was like, well, when I was in kindergarten, I was taught French, and some of these words kind of sound French. So I had that little, that little ripple in my, when I said the words.
Like bonjour or
Bonjour.
bonjour.
Yeah, bonjour, right? and acknowledging that, okay, so I'm getting my French words mixed up with the Ojibwe words. And it's like, it was that second language that I would really be using. Mind you, I rebelled taking French big time, because it was something that at that age I acknowledged that I wanted to speak the language. And when you could hear elders speaking, right? From time to time, you could hear them talking, especially my gram, and she would be talking or singing lullabies while we were in the cradle. You wanted so bad to understand what it was she was trying to include you in, but you felt excluded because you
couldn't connect with it.
Block was there. I don't know if that's a blood memory of saying, oh, no, don't speak that language, you will get punished. If it's that block that's in there, right? Because I have to acknowledge that blood memory. Yeah, there's no ifs, buts about it. That blood memory is there. Because somebody knocks on my door, my kids will not answer the door. So I start to make those connections and understand it a little bit more in depth, because we didn't answer the doors when my parents weren't home, right? We go run and hide and peek out, and here it would be Dunlop or somebody else, right? And when it was a non-native person, oh, we got scared, right? We go running and try to find the best hiding places. So yeah,
Which is what the kids had to do before, right?
Yeah,
to be protected. Yeah.
Yeah, meaning na gani o mabulori ka kita yun Anishinaabemowin even ki school yan. Misiga o na economic Mzniganavia Nishma Binodia Kichiko Mishkimal spot is the cousin. Didn't sister walk away the Egadato. Michi Guezmogo, Mr. Anishinaabemowin, Chinchogo. On your show, you know, spot, you know. Anyway, that's near.
Put me on the spot.
I know what that spot is, but I can remove that spot. But I can use that dog. I said that in the language, like, no, I can go teach them how to hunt and all that. And I know what the children were doing, Jane and Sally, they were playing. And there's a boy named Dick. That's all, like, I just said their names. I didn't say anything in English. I got kicked off for that, yanked by the ear off the door. I went. But anyway, they never changed my mind. I still speak the language.
You
Kind of then Mossy.
Yeah. I heard this from a man that from way up north. He has this TV show or TV. He communicates in the Cree language, I guess, but he also does hockey games in the language.
Oh, that would be
yeah.
to watch.
Lawrence Martin, I hope his name is. Anyway, he was getting off a plane. From front of him. Anish Panema, and she went and she slapped his face. But it wasn't that, eh? He wasn't talking like that. It was his own language, like Cree language. And there was a different meaning in further north, I guess. But to me,
Is that how you say that? Slapfish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what happened. But the thing is, to me, there's no dirty words in our language.
No, there aren't any. No, it's
There
just
isn't.
how it's been turned around.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just descriptive.
Yeah.
And like Audrey had identified, it's all how we relate to everything. Everything is
Yes.
relative to something, right? It's
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
Even to my one family, someone in my family said a word in the English language that was a four-letter word name for a woman. I said, do you know what that word means in our language? Denadish. She thought for a while. So I told her, what does that mean to you? And I said, it's a woman that lost her way. It isn't that horrible word that you're using. And you know, our language is very gentle. And for myself, I wish I would have retained it. I would retain some of the words because that was my first language. That's the only language I knew. That I couldn't converse with any in English till I went to school. And even there, I struggled with English language and like trying to
Yeah.
that was all right for me. I knew I was Pato.
Yeah, not beaching the Kujama when he Saganashi when I just wanted to cut in. Is that the cutting in how do you use this word? I asked her, where does it come from? And that's how I pick up a little bit of that English. I don't like using them big words. They get lost in it.
It's hard to translate too sometimes. When you can start to pull that Anishinaabemowin out, and then you have a word that you know in the language, but you can't remember how to say it in English.
Oh yeah.
Like one of them was ojik before, ojik or say tosswin. How do I have to say that in English again? So that to me, that's a good thing, right? Because it's,
We were working on this house. I had these engineers from Toronto come down. I got a problem with your list here. It says, I'd like to know what the cupboards is. What? Cupboards? To them, it was a board that cups. He said, what is that? Then they're $3,000 cabinets. I told him, kitchen cabinets. They call them cupboards around here. That's what I told him. You could just see that great big question mark on your heads. He's coming, eh? Well, we didn't go through all these words tonight. Is there any questions out there?
We got carried away with our conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was good though. Good conversation.
There were a couple of questions, but one of the people has already left.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, Liz had her hand up and then she put it down. Liz, I don't know if you'd like to be able to talk because I can, I'll allow you to talk.
Me?
So if you could try to unmute again, that would be great.
Unmute?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, I was just listening to the different points of view about our spoken language, our written language. And I was just reviewing a gift that was given to me by one of my relatives. And it was a letter that was written in January of 1903 from some of my, between my relatives that were over in Bark River and over here, Wilquedon, Ajudena. And the written form of that language would not be like what is being taught in the schools today. And I understand the writing system in the school today is very different from what it used to be when our ancestors used to write and when our grandfathers used to write. When I looked at it, I looked at the writing and it doesn't compare at all today. It was just the way they wrote and the way they heard it and the way it sounded to their ear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the songs that we hear, and it's the same thing. Songs are written not to be written like a properly structured, grammatically correct sentence. And one of the songs I used to hear Anishinaabeg sing a long time ago reminded me of that. Because if I took the little song that I heard them sing a long time ago, Bama piwade, kanandomigonan and Jesus twade. That's what a little song I used to hear them sing. And but it's not written anywhere near what it's written like today. And so I accept that we have dictionary writers by the name of Wilson, who was a minister. We had another written way back by a Jesuit missionary, Barrega. And so we have all of these things that we've gone through historically. And so the spoken language that is still being used by our Gitsimag and our Nukmisnanik, Minwa, and Mishum Sinanik, who never went to school, I respect that very highly. And it's something I try to work with, but I understand also that there's a writing style so that kids can learn how to write it in school. And so there are differences there. And but I respect everything that was said tonight about it, and I enjoyed it very much. Miigwech.
Miigwech for your thoughts there.
Yeah, I just tried to cut in old Ojibwe, Chiefs Mountain in Alberta. That's where you'll hear it. Some of it in Manitoba, the old language. And down here now we have the three dialects within this community. I think there's even four, as far as that goes. And this is how that the words are sort of filtered out. And this is why some of these words, as we sit at the table, we don't understand that. But Could be from the old Ojibwe.
Mhm, could be.
So me watch for your remarks. We watch. Sinandam ko ya. Mish minagigis time okay. Manda. 8:30. Went over half an hour.
9:30.
9:30.
Started late. Zamwi kagi mastamen.
No, we got to speak faster. Oh,
So, miigwech for your visit tonight. I enjoyed the conversation, the laughter, the stories. Again, looking forward to next Tuesday. Everybody be safe. Be careful of the weather tomorrow. Time to get the salt and the sand out.
With
And
kumika. With kumikawa, ba?
with kumika, with kubisen, with kubisa.
With kubisa, yeah.
so till next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, same place, same bat channel.
Uh-huh.
Amapi.
Wow.
Kamapi.
Mapi.
Amapi.